this while we're being recorded because the organization to which it pertains has since gone out of business, and that's probably a good thing all round. So there was an organization called Feed the Children, and I worked with them in Azerbaijan. The question I was responding to was, have you ever worked for an organization where you thought something was going wrong and it didn't feel quite right, and what did you do about it? And yeah, so I was working for an organization that was providing, it was a school age and preschool feeding program for internally displaced people in Azerbaijan. And I would say that from a poor start, it actually got better. But there were some fundamental problems with the way the organization was initially set up. And it was the idea that you could collect things that people didn't want, put it in a container and drive it across to the Balkans and give it to people who hadn't asked for it and probably didn't want it. And that was not a good model. and the model did improve, and the organization did win some funding from ECHO, which was the EU's humanitarian body. And we did end up doing some good work that was appropriate to supporting people in Azerbaijan. But initially, we were called Feed the Chickens because some of the pulses that we were including in the food package for internally displaced people were what they would have fed to animals. And you have to learn from those kind of experiences, and you have to think, let's maybe ask people what they want before we assume we know best.
That is great, very interesting story. I'm glad you were able to share that. We have got a question, and please do post your questions. I noticed obviously we've stopped the chat a bit early. Post your questions in the chat. We've got somebody here just saying, would you advise someone finishing their bachelor's to go straight into a master's as the opportunities may be reduced? Or what advice would you give somebody who'd prefer to be more on the managerial side of things? And that's open to any one of our panelists to pick up. So would you advise postgraduate study, and what advice would you give to somebody interested in the managerial side? Shakira, I don't know if you want to start us off.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer part of that. I hope this doesn't sound too controversial. Personally, I would say not to go directly into a master's. I'd say to go out and get as much experience as you can, to get a feel for things, and then choose a master's, because masters they're not cheap these days. And also, you want to kind of know that you're passionate about, what you want to study. It does require a lot of investment, mentally, physically, and you want to be in a position where you really know that that's what you want to study. And I feel like when you go into the work environment, that helps you navigate all those interests and, even travel, etc. That kind of builds up your personality and actually makes you more attractive to employers. I think we can get a bit carried away by, got to do degree, got to do masters, and then got to do PhD, and then I'm going to be ready for work. It doesn't, it's not this linear path. And so, yeah, I'm speaking from my own experiences as well. So there are many ways in, and it's not necessarily, that's the right way for going straight from undergrad to masters and then all of a sudden getting a job, because yeah, the reality is not employers are looking for experience.
Would anybody like to add or offer a different opinion?
Yeah, I will.
Sorry, Hannah.
Sorry. It's pretty much echoing what Shakira did. So I did do an undergraduate and then go straight into a master's. However, exactly what Shakira said, I think you have to think really, really hard about what you want to gain out of that master's degree. And that's exactly what I did many, many years ago when I did it. Is because it's a lot of investment, and it's a lot more intense study. And it is very different to your bachelor's and your undergrad degree. And I think you really need to think very carefully about what you want to do and what it is for your course. So for me personally, it was the right thing for me that I wanted to develop with myself. It was not ultimately for my job and my career aspirations. That played part of it, but not necessarily. So yeah, I would say definitely think about the reasons for doing it first. But it's not the be all and end all. Absolutely, even when job descriptions say masters, desirable, it's not really.
That's great, thank you. I'm just going to move on to another question. This is for Stephanie with regards to a research or policy career. Is it necessary to have a PhD, do you feel, to work for these organisations, not necessarily for academia?
Thanks, Elizabeth, was that? It's kind of overlapped, I suppose, with the last one, but my understanding of these roles not in academia is that you wouldn't need to have a PhD to do one. It depends on the organisation you're working for and the nature of their research or policy department. It's very large. MSF have a huge research division, and I'm sure a lot of the people that work in it have PhDs, but on the whole, I wouldn't have thought that it would be a prerequisite if you're looking for roles outside of academia. If you're looking for a research role in academia, then you are going to have to do that.
You need that. Thank you. And what about if you want to work in humanitarian work, but if you're thinking about regions, so say if you wanted to stay in the UK or Manchester, do you think there's opportunities there? What would you advise? I don't know if we want to kind of throw that to Jane or Mike or Emma as well, really.
Staying in the UK
or Manchester, yeah.
I think it's, to be honest, I think you need to be flexible. I think it's probably best to be open about that. This is a global endeavor, and I think part of it is the connections and the mutual understanding that you build. And again, this might be being said from the point of view of immense age on my part, but you can easily sort of have a base or a sort of long-term home in one place and move out from there. But I think the level of flexibility and mutual understanding is for sort of core for operational or supportive humanitarian work does require that level of flexibility. But if you're in a position that you can't offer that, then that does not mean that you cannot work in the sector. There are all sorts of other things you can do which are hugely important for the sector, which do not require that level of travel and flexibility. So it sort of depends what you want to do, but I think it is a global endeavor.
Emma, I wonder if I can bring you in just to kind of pick up on that, because we've also had questions about what if you have little or no experience, and I wonder if you could sort of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So in terms of the can you stay put question, I would reiterate what Jane said, and I would follow that up with, I do think there's a need to be flexible, but I think if you're flexible in terms of what you're willing to do, you can stay put. There are lots of charities in Manchester, but it might be that you find a lot of the discussions today have focused around how you might not end up doing what you wanted to do, and you might not be with the charity that you'd thought of. There's lots of charities now that are sort of, because of COVID, are changing the way they're doing things. So you might find there's more opportunity to, like I was saying, there's a couple of internships that have come up that are remote now, engaging with charities that you wouldn't normally have had the chance to. Really small international development charities that are operating in different parts of the UK, not even necessarily London, although many of them are down south. And that can be something you could look at. So I do think that's something to consider, that, you know, you could broaden your net if you're willing to search for those opportunities that are looking for remote candidates. However, comes with the caveat that you will be up against huge numbers of applicants. I'm guessing this has come up already in discussion as well, but my understanding is that with more opportunities having that sort of remote hybrid working option going forwards, lots of roles are already massively in demand. When they're posted, they receive lots of applications, so you will need to bear that in mind, I think. But in terms of the point around a little to no experience, I think, yeah, volunteering, you know, I'm here to champion that. And it doesn't have to be with the big guns. You don't have to volunteer with Oxfam or Save the Children. That, like I said, there's lots of organisations, and we work really hard in the volunteering team to work with those that might not normally have the capacity to reach. We will advertise the big organisations' opportunities, but there's loads of other charities. Have a look on our website. I'll post the links in the chat, and reach out to us if you need any help with that, definitely.
So much. There's lots of questions coming in thick and fast now. I think we had a question from Mike here in terms of the countries that you worked with in organizations. And I guess probably for all of the panelists, really, how do you decide which organization, what programs, which countries? So what has been the driver for you when you've thought about who you want to apply for? I mean, I'll ask Mike first, but the others can feel free to add in to that as well. And what qualities do you feel you might need for the roles?
Yeah, good questions. And I think it changes over the years, right? I mean, I certainly, when I was starting out, anyone who'd give me a job, I'd take it, man. I mean, because you've got to get started somewhere. And so, you know, I think I was very lucky to get a foot in the door because of having languages. And that was recognized as something that would be useful. And then I learned everything else since then. So in terms of, I mean, in terms of the kinds of qualities and experiences, I think patience, you know, the learning of patience is a really important thing. Certainly humility. And a sort of curiosity, the willingness to understand, to put yourself in someone else's position and really understand it, because it's so easy to fuck things up. It's so easy to make mistakes, right? And usually it's because you've got a great idea about what those other people over there need, and you're far better spending a bit of time listening and understanding. And then, so in terms of skills that you can bring, I mean, problem solving, and a sort of a willingness to get on and do side by side with people. I think, you know, all of those things will stand you in good stead. You know, good heart. We don't talk about love enough, actually, and we bloody well should, because of all of the ways in which you can imagine running a world, having as a principle that there should be room for love and the expression of it in ways that are not creepy, we should be remaking society with the idea that love is an important emotion, and kind of understanding how best to express that, I suppose, is something that you learn during the course of doing the work that you end up doing.
Can I just add something on that one? Because I agree with what Mike said. I think the other thing I would say is that, you know, don't beat yourselves up. There's no such thing as a straight line in these careers at all. You know, if you have that passion and you have that, if I don't do this, I'll burst kind of thing, then it will work. I mean, I spent 4 years doing a job in a civil servant role because it was vaguely close to where I thought I wanted to be. I'm volunteering like mad in holidays and all sorts of things. And then, you know, you just kind of keep going. And then I I took, you know, what, and I remember I applied for something, for a very short-term thing, and the person who was recruiting for this thing, it was a 6-week thing in Somalia, and I, you know, threw my hat in the ring, knowing that I had none of the skills for it, and she spoke to me and she said, well, you know, thank you very much, but you have none of the skills on this list. And I said, and now I can't believe I did it, but I just said, no, Mr. Kelly, I don't, but I can go to Mogadishu on Saturday. And it turned out that nobody else would or could, and that was it. And you know, then you sort of have that little bit of something, and you know, it happens, it works if you just keep going, you know.
Thank you very much. I'm just conscious of the time, and I know we've got lots of questions, so this is obviously a topic that can run and run. I'm hoping that all the alumni, the panelists, sorry, everybody that we've had on today, that you're happy for students to connect with you on LinkedIn to maybe ask specific questions. I do wonder, though, if I can just go through all of you, if you can give me your top tip. So this might be something for people thinking about entry, or something that you wish you'd known when you were starting out. So Rania, if I come to you first, just one top tip very briefly, and then I'll pass on to everybody.
Oh, top tip.
Let's put you on the spot there.
I would say, like, quit when you feel it's going wrong, you know, have faith that you can do it the way it ought to be.
Yeah, thank you. Hannah?
Look outside the box. Definitely don't just stick for the big international humanitarian organisations that are visible. Go looking for others, and also be flexible with where you want to go. You might have to not be in the sector to get your dream job in the coming years.
Emma?
Well, I have to say volunteering, don't I? Volunteer, but related to that, I've been looking at the chat. Don't underestimate the value of it, and don't be afraid to shout about it. And if you need help with communicating that to employers and you're worried what that might come across like in terms of what you've been doing, then reach out to us for help.
Thank you. Shakira?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, I would echo what Jane said about it's not a linear path. So, you know, I've certainly, you know, my career trajectory has gone from left to right, up and down. You know, I've tested the waters in certain areas, didn't like it, and moved to something else. You know, it's not all about being the most qualified person in the room. It's about, you know, passion, you know, resilience, and, you know, rolling up your sleeves and being willing to do anything. Yeah, those are my words.
Oh, that's great. That's really good. Jane Cockin, I'll come to, and then Jane Howe.
I would say you've got a lot more to offer than you ever think you have. You know, nothing is ever wasted, nothing's ever irrelevant if you just look at it and see how you can apply it to where it is you've decided you want to go.
That's great. Jane?
Oh, it's quite difficult going last. I'm going to echo what Jane and Shakira said as well. It is about that passion and getting involved with figuring out what your interests are and really going with that. And yeah, like a lot of other panelists as well, my career trajectory has gone in all different directions. I didn't anticipate myself living on a remote Scottish island, working for a small educational charity when I did a maths degree, but I found my way here, and thank goodness I have. So it's about taking those passions and getting involved and going with it.
Thank you. Mustafa? I don't know if Mustafa is still with us. Stephanie?
It is quite hard going towards the end, but I think also the thing that I said first in the first chat, I think, which was that don't underestimate the transferable skills and knowledge that you have from your degrees. Like, I know a lot of people are doing degrees, but it's not just about like the specific knowledge of them, but you're learning skills that can be transferred to other roles, and you just need to kind of learn how to present them. Yeah.
That's great. And Mike, last but not least.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I said in one of the rooms was that there is always a box to tick, which is about motivation for the role. So if you know, make sure the people on the other side of the desk know you're up for it if you're after something. I just wanted to respond as well. There was in the chat there. Was it Tonya talking about white saviorism? And of course, it's a concern. And you know, I've been so lucky to work in many different places, and I can't help being white, but I can help being a white savior, right? And I think it's about how you approach things, and it's whether you approach a situation with humility and with a listening ear and a desire to understand. You know, that's going to get you an awful long way, whatever you want to do. And so I think, you know, understanding what you want out of a situation, and understanding that it's okay to want something out of a situation, but also understanding what the context is massively important. And we shouldn't ever be getting into something without understanding it.
Just before I kind of go into the final screen, I know we've had lots of questions in the chat. My colleagues and I, Sophie and Delia, we are saving all the questions, so I will post them out to the panelists if that's okay afterwards, just in case there's anything that you want us to make the students aware. So for all of you that have posted questions, I'm going to wrap up the session, but please do make sure we have your details, and make sure with the links in the chat that you have registered, so that we've got your email details and we can send you out these responses, because as you can see, it's really useful insights that you're getting here. I'm just going to move the session on now, just to kind of finish up. Just to make you aware of the support. So obviously, you know, you have these events. If you want to talk through your ideas, you can book a careers appointment, and we can help you through application processes as well if you're a little bit further on in your planning. Just to also make you aware, when we talk about equality, diversity and inclusion, we recognize that not all students and graduates are going to have the same circumstances, opportunities, and needs, support needs. So again, we are here to support you if there's anything specific that you want to discuss. I think if you don't mind, and Delia or Sophie will just put this link in the chat as well. If you could all go to the mentee session and just give us a quick feedback of how you found today's session, and just your comments for the speakers. I mean, listening to them already in that brief period, I've learned a lot. So if there's anything that you want to say to the speakers about what you've gained from today and what you'd like to see in future sessions, please would you just mind quickly just completing the 3 slides that we've got on Menti, and you can use the QR code for that as well. So I'll just leave that up on the screen and just for a little while. With this being virtual rather than us having actual claps, if you can all kind of go to your reactions and just show your appreciations there by a wave or a clap for our panelists there, because I think you'll agree they've been fantastic. So just thank you all for giving your time today. And then I hope, as I say, that everybody's got a chance to go on to Menti. So yes, thank you all for joining us. And please make sure that you find them on LinkedIn. You know, these conversations can go on. You can post your individual questions. So make sure you're doing that. Leah, I like that celebration one. That's a really good one to have. So yeah, thank you all for that. I'm just going to go on to Menti just to see if we've got any comments coming through. If you can kind of just complete the links. Sophie's just put that on the chat now. Your feedback is important. I know you hear that quite often, but it will let us know what you've enjoyed about today, what you would like to see in future sessions, really. And yeah, I will just leave this open if anybody wants to add anything, any of our panelists, before we finish for today.
Can I just say one thing? I attended this event last year, and I remember Jane sitting on my table and and telling her, I really want to get into my NAC German. You know, I want to either work for MAG or Halo, and you guys have been on my radar for, you know, such a long time. And so to have actually gotten this opportunity and not actually being snapped up and not actually finished my master's was actually quite a win. So I want to thank Jane for being part of that journey, and yeah, part of the goal. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, I just want to also say that, you know, I'm an example that literally I was at this event last year, so as a student, and here I am. So it works.
Brilliant. Well done, Shakira.
Sorry, can I just say that the Menti, there's only one question. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I can't add any comments or anything. I can only answer the first question.
Oh, right, okay. Is it letting you? Let me just.
It just says that it's waiting for the host to change to the next slide.
Yeah, same here.
Are you on there now with the code? If you use 7743-0107. So Delia or Sophie, could you just put that in the chat? Thank you for flagging that to me. The code is 7743-0107.
Sorry, Terry, could you just repeat that one more time?
7743-0107.
It now shows a comment box, so you can now add comments.
Yes. And we've had some positive ones already about the speakers being extremely helpful and inspiring. Just having the time to have those personal conversations with you, and just making better use of LinkedIn as well. And I think this is something we can all agree on, the openness of the guests. Just really do appreciate you all just being quite forthright and honest about your sort of circumstances as well. So thank you all for that. I'll just leave that up for a little bit before I move on to the next slide. I'm going to leave this up because if I shut it down, it might just stop. Okay, so what I'll do is, we're still waiting for people there. For those of you that are providing feedback, I would just ask you to kind of just stay on, and you're kind of getting a sense of some of the feedback that we've received from people. And then I'll go on to the next slide. If you do need to leave, that's completely fine. Do get in touch, you know, with the career service. So make sure you've registered. So we will be contacting you all after the session. And same with the panelists. Thank you all so much for your time today. I've really, really appreciated it. And it's been nice to meet you, albeit virtually, following all the sort of email exchanges. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for organising.
Gosh, no, it's been a pleasure.
It's been really inspiring to be part of it. It's brilliant to listen to everybody.
So I'm hoping everybody can still see all three suggestions, but yeah, it's really nice that quite a few people are feeling fairly confident about next steps as well.
Can I just ask, I know this is like a super rogue question at such a ridiculous time, but do any of your corporations or charities hiring at the moment?
Halo Trust, we're constantly hiring actually, so feel free to go onto our website. All jobs are posted on there. It's halotrust.org, and yeah, just go to recruitment, and I think at the moment they're hiring for a few monitoring and evaluation roles in Afghanistan. So yeah, just keep an eye on that, and I think MAG are the same, they're constantly hiring, so it's just a case of keeping an eye out.
Amazing, thank you.
Sorry, this is kind of similar to Callum. I was just wondering, do any of the organisations offer any placements or internships? Obviously, because with the degree that I'm doing, you can take a year out.
Neve, could you say that again, please?
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering, with any of these corporations, do they offer internships or placements? Because obviously with the degree that I'm doing, there's a year out.
Okay, so you want maybe like an accredited placement, do you mean? Something that you could do formally as part of your course? Is that something, do you know if any of your organisations offer that? Oh, okay. Mike said that we unfortunately don't. You could try going through Charity Works perhaps, because they run graduate level opportunities. So thinking about who their partner agencies are, that might be something to try. Mubarak has posted something about reliefweb.int, so you can have a look on the chat there as well. Shakira said that Halo don't either. It might be one of those where you just keep checking with the organisations, look at our careers pages. So my colleague Delia has posted about the Bond website that you could use as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to wrap things up there now, but as I say, thank you all very much.